Team USA finally puts Caitlin Clark into the starting lineup. However, everything that glitters ain't gold.
Stop whatever you are doing right now, because what happened on that basketball court was not a game. It was not a friendly international tune-up that gets discussed briefly and forgotten by the following morning. What happened on that court was a detonation, a 55-point detonation that shook the foundation of women's basketball so completely that the tremors are still moving through every locker room, every coaching staff, and every front office in the entire WNBA right now. USA 101, New Zealand 46. Read that slowly. Let those numbers sit in your chest for a moment. That is not a basketball score. That is a formal verdict delivered to the entire basketball world. That is a professional program being officially notified that the competitive gap between them and Team USA has not narrowed, it has widened, dramatically and permanently. And standing at the absolute center of that destruction, playing just 23 minutes, was one woman who the entire establishment spent months desperately and embarrassingly trying to suppress. Caitlin Clark finally got her starting spot, and the WNBA is sitting in stunned, terrified silence. 23 minutes, that is all she played. Not 40, not 35. 23 minutes of controlled, precise, absolutely devastating basketball that produced 14 points and 6 assists and completely rewired how Team USA operated on that floor. But those raw numbers do not even begin to describe what actually happened out there, because what happened was not about statistics. It was a complete psychological dismantling of an entire defensive system. It was a player who had been waiting, who had been held back and restricted and forced to operate beneath her actual level, finally being handed the stage she was always supposed to own. And she did not waste a single second of it. From the opening tip, Clark moved with a kind of controlled fury that cannot be taught and cannot be manufactured. She was not anxious. She was not carrying the weight of months of frustration visibly on her shoulders. She was calm and precise and relentlessly, methodically devastating. Every pass she threw cut through the New Zealand defense like a blade through open air. Every decision she made was processed at a speed that made the opposition look like they were competing in a slower, older, less evolved version of the same sport. 6 assists in 23 minutes. Project that pace across a full 40-minute game, and you are looking at historic playmaking numbers at a rate the WNBA point guard position has rarely ever seen. And she was not even fully extended. She was not operating anywhere near her ceiling. That is the part that should frighten every single team in this league. Now, let us talk about what 101-46 actually means, because too many people are reading that scoreline and attributing it to a natural mismatch between programs. That is the comfortable explanation. That is the explanation that does not force anyone to confront the full weight of what happened. Holding a professionally funded international team to 46 total points across 4 full quarters of regulation basketball is not a mismatch. That is an average of 11.5 points per quarter. That means New Zealand could not build any consistent offensive rhythm at any point in the game. Not in the first quarter, when the nerves are highest and the crowd energy is loudest. Not in the third quarter, when adjustments have been made and the coaching staff has had an entire half to find something that works. Not anywhere. Team USA's defense suffocated them completely, systematically, and without mercy from the first possession to the final buzzer. And on the other end, 101 points is not a team that got hot late and inflated a comfortable lead into an embarrassing one. That is a team that attacked with full aggression from the opening minute and never once slowed down regardless of how large the margin grew. This was a controlled, deliberate, total destruction, and Caitlin Clark was the architect at the center of all of it. But let's go back even further, because the game did not start at tip-off. The most important moment of this entire event happened before a single player touched the floor. It happened when the starting lineup was written and Caitlin Clark's name was placed in that first unit where it has always belonged. For months, the conversation around her role in this program has been deeply political and deeply uncomfortable. The establishment resisted giving her that starting position. They protected the familiar. They kept faith with guards who have incredible resumes and genuine legacies within this program. Guards who deserve real respect for everything they have accomplished. But guards who, at this specific moment in time, at this specific pace and tempo that the modern game now demands, can no longer match the speed and vision that Clark brings to the floor every night. And the results before this game quietly reflected that reluctance. Team USA was functional, they were winning, but they were not terrifying. They were not the kind of team that walks into an arena and makes the entire opposing program privately accept before the game even starts that there is simply no path to victory. Then, the lineup changed, and in 23 minutes, the entire competitive reality of this team transformed. The offense moved at a different speed. The ball found open shooters earlier. Transition opportunities appeared that had not existed before. The spacing of the court shifted from something opponents could manage into something they had no answer for whatsoever. One decision, one name on a lineup card, in a fully funded international program was reduced to 46 points and a scoreline that will follow their federation for years. Now here's where the story gets genuinely dangerous for the rest of this league. Everyone already knows about the three-point range, the pull-up jumpers from logo distance, from 35 feet, from distances that most professional players would not attempt in a pre-game shoot-around. That part of her game is globally documented, and every defensive coordinator in the WNBA has spent serious time and serious resources trying to construct something that can neutralize it. None of them have found a complete answer. But while they were busy drawing up schemes to push her off the three-point line, while they were designing drop coverages specifically to funnel her into the mid-range area under the assumption that it was the safe defensive zone, something happened in the offseason that none of their film sessions prepared them for. She built a mid-range game, a real one, a mechanically refined, completely repeatable mid-range pull-up jumper that she developed quietly while the league was focused on every other dimension of her offensive arsenal. She is now snaking pick-and-roll actions with the timing and patience of a 10-year professional veteran. She stops on a dime with a deceleration that seems physically impossible given the speed at which she operates, and rises into a compact, clean jumper that is virtually unblockable. Think carefully about what this does to every defensive game plan that currently exists for her. If you go under screens to protect against the three, she stops and pulls up from 18 feet. If you chase her over screens to take away the mid-range, she rejects the screen, turns the corner, and attacks the paint. If you switch the action and put a bigger defender on her, her skill advantage in one-on-one situations is significant enough that she scores regardless. There is no longer a safe choice. Every defensive decision creates a new problem somewhere else on the floor. That is the definition of being truly unguardable, and she just became it. And then the bench came in and finished the job with a level of aggression that turned a dominant victory into a historic statement. Ryan Howard stepped off that bench and dropped 18 points, shooting 6 for 10 from three-point range. 60% efficiency from deep at that volume is not a hot night. That is a trained sniper operating inside her optimal range, completely separated from the emotional pressure of the moment, mechanically executing a shot she has taken 10,000 times before. She did not slow down when the outcome was decided. She punished every defensive mistake New Zealand made, no matter how small, for the entire time she was on the floor. Angel Reese brought 17 minutes of physical dominance in the painted area, 9 points, 4 rebounds, and a presence that forced the opposing frontcourt into purely reactive defensive basketball. Monique Billings shot 5 for 7. Kiki Irifan shot 66% from the field and grabbed 8 rebounds. Every single player who touched the court contributed at an elite level. No weak links, no moments of relief for the opposition. The bench did not inherit a large lead and manage it carefully. They took a decisive lead and turned it into a demolition. That is not an accident of talent. That is a roster built with genuine depth and coached to a standard that does not lower based on the scoreboard. But here is the truth that cuts deeper than any single performance. The panic spreading through the WNBA right now is not really about last night's game. The The score was historic, Clark was brilliant, the bench was exceptional, but the real fear has nothing to do with what happened against New Zealand. The real fear is about what last night proves is coming. Every franchise in this league has a defensive scheme for Caitlin Clark. Every coaching staff has invested real time building something designed to slow her down and create difficult moments for her. Some of those plans had brief success at certain points in her career. She's had off nights. Defenses have occasionally made things uncomfortable. But every single one of those plans was designed to stop the version of Caitlin Clark that existed last season. The version still finding her footing in professional basketball after the most documented and discussed college career in the history of the sport. That version no longer exists. The player that took the floor last night as a starter and dismantled an entire international program in 23 minutes has spent her entire offseason identifying every gap in her game and closing them permanently. She added the mid-range. She sharpened her decision-making at pace. She came back more complete, more dangerous, and more difficult to contain than she has ever been. The defensive coordinators around the league are sitting in their film rooms right now, and they know it. They are trying to solve a problem that just became significantly harder
overnight, and the professional season has not even started yet. That is the real panic. Not the scoreline, not the 55-point margin. Last night was the warning, the official public announcement that the version of Caitlin Clark this league spent all offseason preparing for is not the version that is actually coming. The gap between their preparation and the reality they are about to face is wide, and it is growing. Every team in that league is now one step behind before the season has even tipped off. 101-46 was never really about New Zealand. New Zealand was simply the program standing in the arena on the night that everything changed. They were the team that had the misfortune of being on the floor when a restricted, underutilized generational talent was finally handed the role she was always supposed to occupy. They did not lose a basketball game. They witnessed a transition of power happening in real time, and that transition cannot be walked back. The starting position is not temporary. The era is not a trial run. Caitlin Clark is the starting point guard of Team USA, and every single opponent she faces from this moment forward will need to be prepared for something women's basketball has not consistently seen before. 23 minutes. That was all it took. The wait is over. The era has officially begun, and the honest answer to the question every team in this league is quietly asking each other right now, are we actually ready for this? Is no. They are not ready, and the season has not even started yet.